Well, welcome back to the channel. At long last, I'm actually feeling better. I'd like to suggest that I've just been lazy, couldn't be bothered. It was a bit snowy outside and a bit cold, but it wasn't. We all had COVID. Our entire household had COVID. And whilst I wasn't massively unwell, I also wasn't well enough to be able to come down here to do some work on the Scirocco. So a month off, an intermediate video about the Scirocco and how I managed to get that started, which I shot previously and then talked over the top of with some pictures because I just couldn't make it out of the house to come down here. But I didn't want to leave people without something new to watch, so I thought it was probably sensible to do something, and that's what I decided to do. And I think it was pretty awful, and I think when I look back on that that footage and listening to myself, I think it's quite clear how unwell I was, and I didn't really realise. So anyway, back to the matter at hand and the failure of the rear brake conversion on the Scirocco, because, well, the discs just look silly. So I put some effort in, and with a bit of research, a lot of Googling, taking measurements, messing around, I came up with a plan. Now, as usual, this is a plan that is fully formed in my mind and not bothered to be written down, so it's probably complete and utter madness. What have I decided to do? Well, new sub-axles from Mk2, some bolts to hold them on, and the biggest discs I thought I could fit under there. Look at these, they're enormous. So, back a couple of videos ago, we saw the fronts get converted, 312mm discs, and I thought, well, what's the point of messing around? I may as well go big. I mean, as I say to my son, go big or go home. So I went big on the rears as well. 310mm discs, a lot of maths, quite a lot of measuring. I managed to work out that I could buy bits and pieces from Mk2 and come up with a kit and a plan to fit these monster discs on the back of a Scirocco. So, I must be mad. So the other thing I needed was some S3 8P rear brake calipers, because they have the built-in handbrake mechanism, it's not electric, and they are wide enough to take the vented discs that we're putting on the back. So, why am I doing this? Because I'm bonkers and I don't like big gaps between my brake disc and my caliper and my wheel. So, let the madness ensue. I probably need to move around the tripod, get everything set up, take all of this off, put all of this shiny new stuff on that we've got, and then see what we've got at the end of it. I have no idea whether it's going to fit. I'm probably, as usual, completely bonkers, spent way too much money on the wrong things, but I've got to give it a try. I mean, where's the fun in not trying? So, let's just do it. Back in a minute. Just realised before I start that I forgot to talk about one of the most important parts of the of what I've bought from Mk2. So these are rear hub to disc conversion, so that I can use the new stub axles, original bearings off the wheels, but I can bolt a normal disc on there rather than having to use the disc and hub that comes complete on the setup that we've got on there at the moment. So this is a really important part, and these look really nicely made from Mk2. Got to put the bearings in here. I'm going to take the bearings out of the original drums of the car because I know the bearings are good, so I'm going to take them out and swap them over. I'll show you that process in a bit, or some bits of that process anyway. Back to, well, let's just get on with it, shall we? Gloves first. Stick her off. Right, so that's all of that stripped back off again. We still have the old handbrake cable here and still have the original brake hose here. Those are elements that I'm going to have to convert later and work out exactly how I'm going to get all of the elements together to give us a working handbrake and a working brake hose. I've got the starts of the handbrake. So these are off a Scirocco GTI, I believe, that have slightly longer cables, so they're more suited to running the rear disc conversion. So I'm hoping that with these and maybe some modifying of the rear brake calipers, we're going to be able to get a working handbrake. So let's hope so. So more parts, more randomness, no idea whether it'll work or not. Right then, new stub axle. So I'm not completely convinced whether or not these are identical to the ones I've just taken off. They don't look the same, but because I wanted to run the hubs, I thought it was much more sensible to buy the proper Epitech stub axles to go with the hubs, rather than risking just buying the hubs and then trying them on the older stub axles. That just seemed like a false economy, because if it didn't work, I was going to have to buy the stub axles anyway, and then I would have had to have paid postage again. So I went with buying the stub axles. I thought it was more sensible. Again, for the moment, I'm just going to I think I'll go and get a ratchet and make sure. Right. Okay, so that's a good bit of success. Where's my bracket? Quite excited now. This is oh now there's a, now they must go in that way around or that way around. Oh, I don't know which way around they're going to go. I don't know whether I need to push the calipers that way or push the calipers that way with these spacers, or whether I'm going to have to space them slightly differently, because I'm winging it. So might even have to go in that way. The one thing is, they do look very nice and shiny and really lovely, and again, beautifully made by Epitech. Epitech, if you're listening, can you give me some of your stuff cheaper? I spend a lot of money at your place. I think what I might do is get us all set up for showing you how I'm going to swap the bearings out on these. I don't know whether, is this going to zoom in? Okay, right, hopefully you can see inside there and you can see the 3 holes. You use those 3 holes on both sides. for tapping out the bearings. There'll be exactly the same thing in the drums, so I'll use those gaps and a drift to tap out the bearings. I'm sure does anybody really want to see me swapping the bearings over? Actually, I don't think they do. That's really dull. It's really dull. I'll get the bearings swapped over and I'll be back. Right. Oh my God. Focus. Focus. Not on me. Right. So I swapped over the wheel bearings. I really hope people didn't want to see that. I'm sure there must be loads of YouTube videos on how to swap over wheel bearings. These aren't the press-in type. These are individual bearings which you have to pre-grease, and then you have to put in the races and the runners. Not a difficult job, just takes a little bit of patience, some decent pin punches, a hammer and a vise. If you've got a bearing press or a press for putting it back in again, then really easy then to get them back in. You still need to take them out really with a drift, but anyway, back to the matter at hand. Let's put these on. They should all just fit. Okay. Right. What's that not fitting on there? Oh, it does. Okay. Let's try again. Right. Awesome. That's that on. Let's get my washer lined up. And that on. So I'm not going to do the presets on the bearings at the moment. I want to make sure that this is all going to work before I do this, because as usual I'm trying to do something that people don't do because I'm bonkers. Alright, some discs. Now these are officially monsters. But one problem that we have is they don't actually fit. The centre bores are not right versus these hubs. So these hubs have a 57.1mm centre bore, and they've not got a step in them for running a disc on it. Now, I'm not too sure why Epitech didn't have the 60mm or 65mm step to go with the centre bore of the standard discs, because to be honest it just seems a bit bonkers. It seems like a bit of a miss. If you're going to have these machined, then why not do them with a step for the disc if you're expecting people to use them with discs? But they do supply on their site a spigot, an appropriate spigot for the job. Oh, that goes on there. That goes on there, and right, so standard practice. So right, I need to explain where these discs come from. I think it's probably sensible. I now can't get the spigot ring out. So as you can see, these are monsters. They're 310mm, and they actually come off of the back of a VW Phaeton. Bonkers, isn't it? But this is an upgrade that you can run on some of the other VW Audi group. So hence why, if you mix and match brackets and bits and things from Epitech, you can manage to make up conversion kits that don't really exist. Hence the randomness of my front ones with the bigger discs, and then this. So guess what? Look how many studs it's got. It's got 5 again, and obviously it needs to be 4. Now, if you really, again, I don't think you want to see me do this again, because I've done this for the fronts previously. So if you want to see how to centre, pin punch and re-drill a disc, go and look at my front brake disc conversion video. It's all in there, and there's no point in me showing you this again. It's just going to be dull and nonsensical. So what I'm going to do is go off and do this, and I'll be back in a minute. Right, so we've got the hub on. We've got. Let's just get the bracket sort of bolted up. Give us a good idea where it should be. This is kind of our starting point. I reckon that won't be bad. Right. Let's have a look. Screw it ready. Right. Okay. Let's show you what I've done to that. So I think you can see where we've got some elongated holes and some new drillings to give us the 4 stud conversion on this disc. Now, I must admit, doesn't that look mega? That's huge. Right. Brake carrier. Yep, brake carrier. Right. Let's get the brake carrier on for the caliper. Now, this is looking really good. This is looking really good. Why has nobody done this before? Oh, because nobody's as bonkers as me, that's probably why. Right, so that is tight enough to give us a good idea. Should we put the wheel over it? But that's going to look amazing. Right, hang on a minute. Definitely need some correct spigot rings in here. He's done up. Oh my. That looks amazing. Right, that looks amazing. Right, let me just grab the camera and I'll show you. Right. Let's just get a line on that. Look at how big that disc is in that wheel. That is just like the front. That's really what the look I was after. That's really, really mega. Right, let's take this wheel back off again. Let's get some brake pads in there to line it up, and then we can start considering brake lines and bleeding and all sorts of stuff. So, I said wheel off, put the caliper on, put it back together. Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna buy some new pads of these, but for the moment I'm going to use the ones that I got with the S3 calipers. So, right, let's get them in here. So, right. Now, these calipers are monsters. I'm not quite too sure how I'm going to deal with the cable runs. You can see from the guy that I bought them off, their care factor when removing them is quite low. But they just chopped through the handbrake cable and chopped through the actual brake line hose. So let's see that we can get this on there with the pads in and get it bolted up. These things are properly fiddly because of the little spring clips on the pads. Get in. Well, it looks as though the battery on my camera went flat and probably at a really, really opportune moment, because I think my channel would have turned into being unchild friendly. I think there would have been an awful lot of beeping, cut video, having to try and play music over the top of, well, let's say I got a bit sweary, because this all fits brilliantly and works really well. It's all aligned, everything is superb, the whole lot fits. It's just that doesn't fit inside the wheel. When I took all of the measurements and I did all of the planning, oh, let me put some gloves on and go and get the bits, and I'll show you the difference. I took all of the measurements based on these calipers, which are the G60 ones, which are designed for non-vented discs. Now, in my infinite sort of stupidity, should we say, what I did is I used the measurement from here to here across the top of the caliper to obviously go over the top of this disc, sort of like that, and I worked out that this was just going to fit inside the wheel. What we now have here is actually an aluminium caliper, which is about 15mm thicker, and it just basically doesn't fit. The wheel just won't go over the top of it because it fails. It was only just going to clear this by about 2mm, but basically I did my measurements on the wrong thing. So all of this effort wasted. So unless I can manage to buy some calipers that are steel rather than aluminium, so therefore they're this thickness, across here, so they'll fit inside the wheels, I'm going to have to rethink, because it basically just doesn't work. So yeah, total rethink time, replan, redo. But basically my rear disc conversion won't fit inside 16-inch wheels, probably won't fit inside 17-inch wheels. You might need 18s to go over this, I really don't know. I think these calipers are 15mm thicker, and with them being 15mm thicker, they're just not going to fit. Doesn't matter what I do, I can't space anything inwards, I can't do anything. I took my measurements on the wrong bit of kit. This is about buy the right stuff first, rather than make it up as you go along. And where would there be the fun in that? So, thanks everybody for watching. I hope your stuff that you're doing becomes more successful than mine, because so far we're on rear discs, take 2, fail. Hopefully I'll have another video for you next week of non-failure, but I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know. I'm too annoyed at the moment. I don't know. Anyway, have a good time. Please hit subscribe. We've made more than 50 subscribers. 50 subscribers! So please subscribe, ding the notification bell thingy, and wait for the next video. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.